Thanks for tuning in to Howe's Things, a podcast and radio show from the David A. Howe Public Library right here in Wellsville, New York. I'm Nick Gunning, and today my co-host is Malik Acosta. Malik, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. So Malik you're a musician, you're a poet, you're also a regular poetry expert. So every time we have to do a poetry episode, we're like, get Malik on the horn. So what was the last thing we did poetry-wise? Do you remember?
I think the last thing we did poetry-wise was the basketball book. What was the name?
Oh,
of that
no.
one?
Yeah, you know what? No, we did the Kwame Alexander book, Crossover. That was
Crossover.
That was another Black History Month book club like we're doing today. I think our last poetry one was the Jason Reynolds one. The Long Way Down. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that one. The Married.
The one we did back at the start of quarantine for Poetry Month in 2020 was the one about the kid who is in the elevator trying to decide. Remember that one?
Remember that.
That is intense.
Yes.
That's an intense one. But Malik's joining me today for a special book club on Angie Thomas's On the Come Up. So we're going to get into that in a minute. Before we do that, let's open up the old bookmarks and see where we're at. Malik, have you been reading anything interesting lately?
I have. Book by Kevin Hart. Can't make this stuff up.
I love Kevin Hart.
I don't think that's the exact name of it, but it's something like
okay.
It's called Can't Make This Up.
So is it like comedy or is it like an autobiography?
It's both.
Oh, okay.
It's basically a kind of an autobiography of his life, the struggles that he had to go through to get to where he is, and the result of all the the consistency and the struggles that he's been through. And through the book, he makes all his life stories. They're really funny. It's just like a stand up.
Okay.
It's just like you're reading it and using your imagination. So it's even funnier than watching one of his stand-ups.
I imagine that would be a great audiobook. I feel like his reading of it
I would love that. Oh, yeah.
Have you watched he did a recent Netflix special. Did you watch that?
I did.
That was kind of out there. It was like it was almost like a therapy session. I felt like, where he's trying to work through life these days. So, it was kind of, I could relate to that because I too feel like I'm going a little insane with COVID life, Yeah. I recently read a Justina Ireland Star Wars book called Clash of... I should have looked up my title first, too. Test of Courage by Justina Ireland. It's a Star Wars book in this new High Republic series. Have you heard about this?
I haven't.
Disney and whoever publishing these is doing like a whole system-wide line of Star Wars books set in this High Republic. So it's supposed to be like way in the past, before all the movies, even before the prequels.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And all of the authors are kind of working together, so it's one big cohesive story. So this was one of the first that came out, and it's meant for more of a younger age group. This is more like the 10 to 12-year-olds versus like a YA. It was just okay. Yeah. I felt like it was a little, even for that age, I felt like it was a little too simple. And they made such a big deal about it being, 1,000 years in the past or whatever. And it just felt like any Star Wars book. So really? I kind of was hoping for a little bit of a different flavor on it. But I love this author. She's written a lot of YA stuff, like Deathless Divide is one that she just did. And a lot of other things that are cool. We interviewed her on the podcast back really, again, at the start of the coronavirus. It was one of our first remote episodes that we did, and so that was really interesting. A lot of fun. Are you watching anything interesting lately? You usually have good recommendations.
Yeah, I do. Actually, since Game of Thrones has been over, it's been this big old void, and everybody is kind of looking for the next kind of prehistoric war. Vikings, that kind of thing, battling. And it's this new show on Netflix. It's called Barbarians.
Okay, yeah.
And it's basically about when Rome started to invade the Germanic tribes.
Okay.
Over in Europe. And it's a really good show. It kind of centers around one of the female Britons.
Okay.
That kind of started a revolution and fought against Rome.
Okay.
So it's about one of those. It's really good. A good filming, really good battle scenes.
Okay. Is it like an open-ended thing? Is it one season or is it ongoing?
It's right now. There's one season. I did hear that they got renewed for a second season because it's been a really big hit. But it was really good. It was really good. It didn't take too long to develop.
Okay.
I kind of felt. I'm pretty sure it was 10 episodes. So
I feel like that's the sweet
fast.
spot, like a 10 episode season. I feel like
perfect.
it is. It's ideal.
Yeah, the 8 is a little too short,
Yeah.
and then anything over 10 is a little too
let's
long.
not go nuts. That's too much.
But the 10 is perfect.
That's too much. I feel like we've been kind of in a show drought, though we did just watch that new Denzel Washington, Rami Malek movie that it's called The Little Things. Have you seen previews for that?
Oh, I have.
I thought that was really good.
Really?
Yeah.
It looks like one of those good drama.
It is. It's like, it feels like a throwback to me. Like it feels like an older style detective show. And it's like Denzel Washington is back in this town that he used to work in as a cop.
Okay.
And Rami Malek is like the lead detective on a serial murder case that has some connections to a case that Denzel Washington's character was working forever ago that kind of got him. He doesn't seem to be on good terms with the cops anymore. So they kind of form this bond, and Jared Leto plays their primary suspect. And it's just kind of a twisty, I don't even know that I'd call it a thriller. It's just more of you just don't really know what's going on. And it's all really, all really strong actors, just working together, doing their thing. So I was really impressed with it. I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah. How is the climax? Was it like worth it? Sitting through the whole movie and this.
It's a much more. I wouldn't really classify it as an action movie. It doesn't have like a big climactic like fight or something like that. Right. It's a much more contemplative movie all throughout, and so it has more of a quiet ending, which I was okay with. Like I thought it was good and interesting, but I have seen some criticism that the ending lacked punch. I didn't think it did, but so watch it and let me know what you think. But I thought that was really good.
Definitely will check it out. When I was watching the preview, I noticed they had one of those strong like interrogation room scenes.
Yeah.
And that's anytime I see that in a movie, I'm always like, I got to see that.
I feel like Denzel Washington as an actor has done a good job of settling into playing the more like seasoned, older type character.
Right.
And I think some actors can't quite make that shift from being like the big dashing leading man to the more like, the heavy, like the older kind of character. But I feel like he's just nailing it. So I was really impressed with that overall.
Yeah, I watched I think the movie he did before that one, I think it was called Fences.
Yes.
Fences. Yeah.
I saw Fences too.
That really surprised me. When I really watched it, it was one of those real life movies where you could really relate to the characters and what they was going through.
Yeah.
It was really good.
It really was. Fences is it's based on a stage play by August Wilson.
Right.
And you can really feel that, I feel like, in that movie, because it's all about, there's not spectacle in it. It's all about the performances and all about the character interactions. I fully agree. I thought that was amazing.
It was.
His performance.
Really
he directed that. I feel like he directed that as well.
I think so.
Yeah.
I did see something about
that.
that.
Boy, I forgot about that movie. That was really good. It's Viola Davis, too, right? Isn't it Viola Davis?
Yeah. Yeah, strong. I love movies like that. Where
I do too.
Where it's just good actors interacting with each other and such real relatable storylines.
Yeah, because that kind of story is so simple that you make or break based on just the performances alone.
Right.
You don't have any kind of big explosions or some special thing that's kind of distract from that. It's like either the actors nail it or it falls flat, and they nailed it in that.
Yes, they definitely did.
Yeah, I agree. Anything that you're anticipating, movies, shows, books wise? I feel like I'm in a drought. That's why I'm asking.
I know. I know it's. I'm kind of on the fence, waiting for this new Witcher season. Because I was really disappointed with the first season.
Yeah.
It just the fight scenes.
Okay.
And I just thought the storyline, it didn't have enough depth to it. It felt hollow to me, and I don't know. I just wasn't really impressed with it. Okay. Maybe because everybody just expect everything to be as good as Game of Thrones at this point. But if anything, that's something I'm keeping my eye open for.
I don't really know. I've only read the graphic novels based on that, and I played a little bit of one of the games. We did a whole episode on this in the All the Books show, episode 229, soundcloud.com/allthebooks. And so I went through and read all the graphic novels, and I did enjoy them. It's kind of I don't do a lot of like fantasy type stuff, like magic and stuff. I just have never really like got into that. But I did find the graphic novels pretty good. Have you read the books or graphics or anything?
I haven't.
I know Eric Nichols read all of them, and it was kind of a hard trajectory to follow because some of them are short stories and they were published out of order in English. So he did a whole deep dive in how to read that series in order, which is why that episode 229 was helpful, because when people asked in the library, I'd kind of be like, this is book 1, but I think technically these short stories come first, the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
But okay, yeah, well, that sounds interesting then. I'm kind of like waiting for the any of the new Star Trek seasons to come back.
Okay.
Did you get into any of those?
I watched a little bit of season 1 of
Discovery,
and I definitely want to dive back in to that. I haven't yet, but I definitely want to.
I feel like that series is much better as a binge watch versus waiting it to dole out week after week after week. It's nice to have a big, to be able to pound through a bunch of episodes. I feel like
I'm so used to that at this point.
I know
it's hard for me to wait, and I just actually finished. You ever heard of Vikings?
Yeah,
it was a show on the History Channel.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I remember.
Man, definitely check that out.
Yeah,
like if you into that, the old war,
like historic and things. Yeah,
Viking, you would love that. It's to me, Game of Thrones is like my number 1 show.
Okay,
and after that is another show called Power, but then after that is Vikings. Vikings is just, I just love the way they filmed it. The characters, the wardrobe, everything. Like, and it's more than war, is about exploration.
Yeah.
It's about just how they really was trying to find new land and new settlements. And that was really, the main thing
that like drove it.
Yeah. So that was, and then, the differences in their culture once they met with the Europeans and, switching over with their belief systems and stuff like that. But it was really, it's really good.
Huh. Okay.
Really
good. Is that on Netflix now? Where is that?
Oh, Vikings is actually on Amazon.
Okay. All right. Like on Prime.
But I'm sure it's other places that you can
probably bouncing around out there. Yeah. What is Powers the one about is it police that have like superpowers?
Oh, no. Power is actually Stars show. It's either Stars or Showtime. It's one of those.
Okay.
But it's more of it's a story about New York City.
Oh, okay.
It's basically a story about a guy that was a drug dealer.
Okay.
And he's starting to get a little older, and he wants to kind of get out of that lifestyle.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a whole drama, kind of. Kind of got a little action in there, a lot of drama, a lot of relationships, a lot of betrayal.
Yeah.
Gotta love that.
See, you keep bringing up these deep shows, and I keep bringing up nerd things. But one show that I have been watching and like faithfully waiting every Friday for the new episode to drop is WandaVision. Are you a Marvel fan?
I keep seeing the trailer for that, and I definitely want to see that.
Yeah.
It's on Disney, right?
It is. It's on Disney Plus. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's so weird. It's one of those kinds of shows where like each episode you only get a little nugget of what's really going on. So like it's a whole mystery of what's really happening behind the characters, and you're seeing it play out in the style of like vintage television shows.
All right.
And the way they're nailing the vintage shows is it's so clever, and every little like morsel of the big mystery that's going on that you get is just so intriguing. So that I think that's maybe a 9-episode series, and we're about halfway through it right now.
Oh, so they have the whole season?
Not yet. Only 5. I think maybe 5 episodes as we record are out.
Oh, okay.
Because they're doing just 1 half-hour episode a week. So.
They are doing that. Okay.
Yeah.
So
they've
kind of been doing that lately.
I know.
After they spoiled us.
I know. It's like everything old is new again, because it's like now every channel has its own streaming thing, and it's like you put those all together and you basically have cable again.
Yeah.
And now we're getting 1 episode a week, so it's old school, definitely.
Right.
Definitely. Well, let's get to book clubbing then.
Yeah.
Author Spotlight.
This week we're going to be discussing On the Come Up. This is Angie Thomas's second novel. It came out on the heels of The Hate U Give. And The Hate U Give was basically a phenomenon. I mean, it was on the YA bestseller list. It's probably still on it, honestly.
Yeah. I think it says, I heard something about 100 weeks.
Yeah, made into a film. I mean, this is the book that will not stop. And I read an interesting article with her in the New York Times about how do you write a second book when your first book is still on the bestseller list, and that was something that she really struggled with because there's always a lot of pressure on that second book.
Right.
I haven't actually read The Hate U Give, but you have, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Let me give you a little background on Angie Thomas. This is from angiethomas.com. This is her info page. So Angie Thomas was born, raised, and still resides in Jackson, Mississippi, as indicated by her accent, she says. She's a former teen rapper whose greatest accomplishment was an article about her in Right On magazine. She holds a BFA in creative writing from Belhaven University and an unofficial degree in hip-hop. She can also still rap if needed. Angie's an inaugural winner of the Walter Dean Myers Grant 2015, awarded by We Need Diverse Books. Her debut novel, which we were just talking about, The Hate U Give, started as a senior project in college. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. It was later acquired by the Balzer and Bray imprint of HarperCollins Publishers in a 13-publisher auction and debuted at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. The Hate U Give was adapted into a critically acclaimed film from Fox 2000. Angie's second novel, which will be our topic today, On the Come Up, is a #1 New York Times bestseller as well, and a film's in development with Paramount Pictures, with Angie acting as producer. In 2020, Angie released Find Your Voice, a guided journal to writing about your truth, as a tool to help aspiring writers tell their stories. In 2021, Angie will return to the world of Garden Heights with Concrete Rose, a prequel to The Hate U Give that focuses on 17-year-old Maverick Carter. All that information I just read is from angiethomas.com, which has a lot of other useful, helpful information about the author and ways to get in contact with her. So check out angiethomas.com. Malik, tell me a little bit about The Hate U Give. What did you think of that? Did you enjoy it?
The Hate U Give was it was actually a really good book.
Yeah.
It's one of those books that's based around kind of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Okay.
And it tackles police brutality, and basically the gist of it is the main character antagonist. One of her really good friends loses his life, gets killed by the police.
Okay.
And when that happens, it sparks her to, really get into, the social structure of racism and Black Lives Matter. And she really just kind of finds her voice and really becomes like a pivotal part of that movement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to hear just how different that setting is from On the Come Up.
Right.
Because in that same article that I was reading with her, she was talking about using the same city. Was it Garden Heights? Is that where these are set?
I believe
something
so.
like that.
Yeah, but they come from the same
town, but
right?
the protagonists have completely different experiences.
Right.
Like Star Carter in The Hate U Give comes from kind of an upper crusty sort of family, right? Going to like a prep school, and whereas it's Bree in On the Come Up is in a much worse situation, and so she was kind of highlighting that even though they're from the same area, their experiences are completely different, and that was something that she wanted to try to explore in On the Come Up. So let's get into that. I'm going to read you the synopsis here for anybody who hasn't read it, and we are most likely going to be spoiling On the Come Up, so just fair warning.
We'll try not to.
That's right. We'll try to get away from the real big reveals here. Okay. But here's a synopsis from Goodreads. 16-year-old Bree wants to be one of the greatest rappers of all time, or at least make it out of her neighborhood one day. As the daughter of an underground rap legend who died before he hit big, Bree's got big shoes to fill. But now that her mom has unexpectedly lost her job, food banks and shut-off notices are as much a part of Bree's life as beats and rhymes. With bills piling up and homelessness staring her family down, Bree no longer just wants to make it. She has to make it. So that's where we're at in On the Come Up here. And was this one that was on your radar? Like, were you after?
It wasn't.
Okay.
Once you told me about it, I had seen it a couple times, but I wasn't sure what it was about. But it was a very interesting book. I could relate to it in so many different ways. I think a lot of young people in this day and time can relate to her, the protagonist.
Yeah.
Some of the struggles she go through.
Yeah.
And some of the things she learn in the process.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that because I've been looking forward to talking to you about this because I had about the exact opposite.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this, there was nothing for me to relate to here, but
Right.
that was, I think, one of the things that I appreciated about the book. It was sort of a peek into a world that I just don't know a lot about, you know, like I was telling you before, like I know nothing about rap, you know? So it was interesting for me in that regard, but let's get into it a little bit. One of the things that stood out to me about the character Bree, just has so much on her shoulders. You know what I mean? She's 16, and like we read in the synopsis, it's like, you know, her father was killed. Her family doesn't have money. They're really struggling with that. She's feeling a lot of pressure to do what she can do. And it's like, no matter where she does, she's sort of being put upon and being pressured in different ways. That, I mean, that's just, how do you deal with that? You know what I mean? Like, and she kind of turns that into a positive. Like she uses that to explore opportunities and everything like that. How did you feel about her? Because we start with a rap battle, right? I mean, that's kind of how things take off. So, how did you feel like when that got going?
I think it was that first battle that she had was with a guy named Miles, if I'm not mistaken. And the intriguing part about the battle when it comes to hip hop is hip hop and rap is poetry. It's rhyming words and, you know, trying to articulate what you're feeling and, you know, trying to out clever the person that you're going against. Yeah. So just the way that Angie Thomas was able to write the raps and the rhyme schemes of Bree, I thought that was really amazing. That's always really intriguing to me, especially for a lot of you know, rap battles and stuff like that. It's not something that you can just that you can write and memorize it. It's kind of like you have to come off the top of your mind and put all these words together and say what you're trying to say, because the main thing you're trying to do is get a reaction out of the crowd so that you can win the battle. So it just takes a lot of brain power.
I can't even
to
imagine
be able to do that.
Seriously.
It's amazing to me.
Well, then I liked about that it was because she doesn't win that first one, right? I mean, it's, I mean, even though technically she does, like, because she's better and everybody knows it, but it kind of goes to the other guy who was the one who was expected to win. Right. But it still opens up a lot of doors for her. But that comes with pressure. You know, that's another thing. It's not just like she's sailing off into this idyllic world. You know, she still has a lot of things that she has to deal with. Right.
And she's like the rookie, basically. She new to it. She doesn't have a reputation or a name for herself. I think that's more of why she wasn't proclaimed the winner of that first battle, because the guy Miles had more of a reputation than her. So, and you know, it all depends on the crowd and the home turf, and you know, it's so many different little, you know, aspects to, you know, to the battle.
Well, I think the expectations that she faces there too have a lot to do with her dad, who was killed in his prime, who was just about to kind of take off as a rapper when he died. And so it's like everybody knows that about her. So it's like she has this pressure to be, you know, as good as her dad, but also the expectations on her are way higher because people come in expecting that she will be good. So it's kind of like she doesn't really have much room to maneuver, you know?
Right.
And even like outside of this in school, the way that she's the way the teachers treat her, the way that anytime she does anything, she's labeled as aggressive and is sent out. I mean, that's just kind of a reality of her situation, which is another thing that I found kind of upsetting, honestly. That, I mean, this is just a kid and she just doesn't really she has so much working against her, like just to start off with. I feel like it's you know, it's kind of harrowing to read a story like that. So I felt like as the story progresses and she is pushed into this world, and there's kind of warring expectations of her about, you know, what she's going to become and what that means for her family and all that. What do you think of the family dynamic?
The family dynamic was it was definitely relatable. Just like her mom ends up losing her job and
hides it from her for so long.
And I think a lot of kids, they in some shape or form, they carry the pressure of adulthood before they become adults. Just trying to it might be a single parent, or your parents might have some issues or whatever. And, as growing up into adolescent, you start to have that feeling, not for everybody, but some people that might be suffering from poverty.
Yeah.
You start to feel this weight of wanting to help, wanting to be able to change things for your family.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of pressure for any kid. And I think a lot of kids definitely can relate to that. They feel helpless.
Yeah.
They see their parents going through, stuff, and they want to try and help and carry some of that weight.
Yeah. She just has no safety net. I guess that's what struck me. She didn't really have the luxury of just being a kid and enjoying that. You know what I mean? Like, it was just constantly something. Right. It was something. And even her aunt, who plays a pretty big role in this and is kind of like an additional parent in some ways, but she has this whole thing where she's also a drug dealer.
Right.
So it's like, in some ways she feels comforted by the presence of her aunt, but that also sort of brings a scary element because she doesn't want something to happen. She doesn't want her aunt to get arrested or, the family to get in trouble or something. So even having that extra person also, like, there's a pro and con to that she's constantly struggling with.
Right.
I wasn't really sure where we were going to go, if she was actually going to make it, if it was going to be a story of her kind of just being on the cusp and not really, not really succeeding there. But I thought the author went an interesting route by making it so that the only way she could really succeed in it was to play into stereotypes.
Right.
It's like she's kind of between a rock and a hard place on that.
Right. I think specifically also because, like you said, she has this kind of reputation of kind of being a troublemaker.
Yeah, being a problem.
A problem child.
Yeah.
And it's like she's trying to have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
She wants people to know that that's not who she is.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, for her to be successful in, when it comes to being a part of rap, she feels like that's the only way she's going to get the attention. And that's the only way people was going to pay attention to her craft.
Exactly.
To her voice. And that, I think, a lot of musicians in general can relate to that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times musicians are people that really have strong feelings about whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of musicians, they working from that emotional part of the brain, so they're really passionate about it. I think everybody has like a preconceived notion of what they want to represent.
Yeah.
But when the reality hits you of what people want to hear, you kind of really bump into, like you said, that wall, and you have to make a decision. What you want to represent.
Well, exactly. She's so pigeonholed into being a thing, being what people expect her to be. Right. Because early on, she I don't remember the exact line, but she had a line that was misinterpreted as sort of glorifying gun violence.
Right.
Remember, I don't remember what she says, but it's something there that she means it the exact opposite, but it's taken as sort of a glorification of that. And then the people, above her are saying, well, hey, that's the thing that's going to sell. So lean into that. And there's sort of a sense of like, you're a girl in a rough neighborhood who raps. So of course you have a gun and like guns, that's just the expectation.
Right.
And so she gets pushed back from her family about that. It's like, why are you playing up these dangerous stereotypes? Like, why are you giving them what they want?
Right.
And then on the other side of the spectrum, she's getting like, you're such a poser. That's not true.
Right.
So it's like she just can't win.
Can't win.
I don't know. I found her struggle very compelling because it's not, sometimes when you read a book and you're following a character, you kind of have in your head, well, do this. Like, this is the path you should take. This is the way forward. Right. But I felt like the author did a really good job of making it so it's like there is no clear path for this character because of what society is putting on her and because of what society expects of her.
Right.
She doesn't have this like broad range of opportunities. It's like you can succeed in this way only if you play the game, a game that she didn't really want to play,
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a dynamic that I noticed. One of the biggest issues in the book. On one side, people are saying, "Oh, you're not about that life. That's not who you are."
Yeah, yeah.
And on the other side, people are saying, "Oh, that is who you are." You
Mm-hmm.
know. But I think the main thing that I got out of it is people need to listen.
Yeah.
Like how you said they misunderstood that that one line she said. And
Because
basically
that's
what
what
she's doing. She's
that's
trying
what
to
they were
express
looking
herself.
for.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
They came with their preconceived notions.
Exactly.
They were looking for something specific, and they found it, whether it was accurate or not.
Exactly.
How would you compare it to The Hate You Give? Did you have a preference between the two?
For me, it was just too different
Yeah.
of subject matter. Like for me, the Hate You Give was more, a social
Yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
issues that's going on in our society that we, that all of us are suffering from. And then On the Come Up is more of, for me, an inspirational story about following your dreams, being who you are, and just like Angie Thomas was saying something about the reason she named it On the Come Up was because it was a story about some Bree coming of age, growing up, finding herself.
Yeah.
I
liked that the character. I mean, what eventually has to become of this character, and I guess here's where maybe we'll get into some spoilery content.
Spoilers!
She can't really truly succeed by being something for someone else. Like she has to find a way to be herself and pursue like what she wants. Like that's the only way that she really, I think, can reach what she really wants. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think she's got to kind of just like push that all off. And I actually thought it was a little surprising in some way that this ended up being a story about her doing just that, because it seems like more often than not, it's always kind of about the whether it's a story about a aspiring actor or a musician. It seems like a lot of the times they sort of don't reach that dream, but they find happiness or whatever in something else. But this really was about her defying the odds and reaching this goal that so many people have. And I just thought that was cool because I guess I didn't really expect it to go that way. Did you think we were going to see her sort of succeed in the end?
I did to a certain extent. I feel like a lot of these stories and like kind of the new wave of writing, people don't want to have a story where it's just like a beginning, the middle, and the end. I think in the end is always the same. Like the good guy always wins.
Yeah.
I think people just are really into kind of changing up the story.
Yeah.
So it's almost like at the end, more than overcoming all the odds, it just shows you a way that process begins.
Yeah, that's true.
Not like you've arrived, but like you're on your way now.
Yeah,
type of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point because it doesn't end in a nice tidy bow. Right. It's sort of like ... It's like and things. Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's a good point. Yeah. That is more of a modern storytelling thing. I feel like that's been happening.
Have you ever heard of Eminem? He's a rapper.
Yeah.
He's a white rapper.
Yeah.
And his he had a story about his life called 8 Mile.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that's kind of how that movie ended too. But that's the first time I really noticed, by paying attention that it wasn't just a story about a person, a struggle, and then overcome. It was more of this is how the process begins to get to that next level.
Yeah.
So it ended off with him just kind of getting his foot in the door.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I felt with this one too.
Yeah, that's true. There are some parallels there. You and I were talking off mic, which is something we should never do when we're about to discuss a book.
I know,
as we record it.
Much.
But one of the things that we were talking about down at the front desk was I thought it was interesting the way that she took a lot of the stereotypes that you might expect, and rather than pushing those aside, she used those stereotypes and archetypes of characters to tell this original story. And I just thought that was a really cool use of that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
definitely. I thought so too. Like I said earlier, it's like spoken word, poetry. And when you freestyling, meaning you just coming off the top of your head with it, I just think that is so. Out of all the art forms, that's one of the most intriguing things to me. I think it takes a certain amount of just wit, clarity, and quickness to be able to, make words rhyme, come across with a point and an ending. Some people will create a whole storyline. It's just that's really takes a lot of skill to do that.
Yeah, I certainly couldn't do it.
Yeah, like one day, just try it and you'll see how hard it is.
What's your? We talked a little bit about. I know you write poetry and things. What is your process when you're doing that?
Mainly for me is mostly about inspiration. I mean, inspiration to the point now that I'm really doing it consciously and on a regular basis. If I get up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night and is something in my head, a rhyme or something, I'll write it down. So basically, it's more about inspiration. It's about feeling the moment.
Yeah.
See, music is always a way for me to relax.
Yeah.
And, when you hear music, you start to feel all kinds of different feelings. Yeah. So my main process is hearing music, feeling the feeling, and then just kind of feeding off of that energy.
Yeah.
Because there's so much subject matter.
Yeah.
It could be about anything.
Yeah.
But it's more about the feeling. Because what you're trying to do is, when you create in music, is you feel a certain way, and what you want to do is you want to bring in everybody else to feel that feeling that you was feeling when you started to create.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing you're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, like you're saying, I think there's a certain openness that requires, and that's I think what Bree in the rap battle had going for her. She was just so in tune with the situation of what was going on. Right. She kind of sized everybody up instantly, and had that, and was able to put that into the words right when she needed them.
Right.
Which was just a cool moment for the character, and a really good setup, I think, for the book to see just how sharp she was.
Right. Right. And like you said, her being a woman, I think a lot of people, didn't expect her to be as that witty, to have a skill level that was that good.
So she has both sexism and racism working against her in this story, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not to mention just life in general.
Yeah, right. Cards stacked against.
Right.
Definitely.
When it's raining, it's pouring, and it's like everything is against her.
Yeah.
I think it's something to be said about going uphill.
Yeah. In
life, and that process, making you who you are, making you stronger.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's basically, like, On the Come Up is the perfect title for this book, because just like Angie Thomas was saying, it's a story about somebody finding themselves, growing up, finding out who they are, what they want to say, what they want to stand for, and we all go through that process.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Especially around that age.
Yes, that's the time. That's definitely the time for it. Well, the book, again, is called On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. We have it right here at the David A. Howe Public Library. It's also available digitally on Libby or the Overdrive apps as an audiobook or an ebook, so we encourage you to check it out. Angie Thomas's other books include The Hate You Give and Concrete Rose, which just came out in 2021 and is a prequel to The Hate You Give. We have all of these in our collection. I know, because we just checked it out. So
yes.
somebody else has got it.
2 fun facts real quick.
Hit me.
One fun fact. I did hear that they was going to be making a movie.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Adaptation of On the Come Up. Supposed to be being directed by George Tillman, which directed The Hate You Give.
Oh, okay.
So that should definitely be fun. I would love to see a movie about a female hip-hop rapper. Like, that would be amazing. And also, On the Come Up came out 2 years ago today.
That's weird.
I just thought it was amazing that we doing the podcast on today.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. I was like, oh wow, that's there is no such thing as coincidence.
Weird, yeah. Okay, well, as I said, you can go back and revisit some of the past episodes here. Our last Black History Month book club was the Spotlight on Kwame Alexander, where we talked about the crossover. So good. Malik, this is the first book that we've done together, either for Poetry Month or Black History Month, that hasn't been written in verse.
Right.
This is the first one.
I know. And it just the fact that it was so much rhyming in
Yeah.
it, I kind of felt like it still was. But
I know, I agree.
Yeah.
I did the audiobook for about half and half. And anytime we had like the rap battles or just when she was kind of freestyling, the audiobook narrator did kind of perform it. So it felt it was a cool listen. I enjoyed experiencing the book that way.
And I think you did learn something because you just said you referred to freestyling and you put it in the correct tense. So you definitely
I can't be taught.
You learning.
Remember when you asked me if I knew who Eminem was?
Yeah, I was like, if you don't know this,
and I was so glad that I did. Also, so that was, yep. All right, well, let's see. We have some exciting episodes coming up here on Howe's Things. The very next episode is going to be a special interview with Steve Barnes, well-regarded sci-fi author, and we really get into it. He just wrote some episodes of the recent Twilight Zone that's airing on CBS right now. Yeah, so we talk about that. We talk about his experience writing on some of the classic Twilight Zone and other shows. So he's a screenwriter and author, and it was a really interesting interview. So stick around for that next time. Outside of the library, Malik, you're branching off, podcasting on your own. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I am. Well, basically, I'm doing a little podcast. It's more of an inspirational podcast. Talking about struggles that we face in life, struggles that I've faced in life, and I'm all about solutions. So my main process is talking about a problem and then us working together to find a solution. You know, because I think a lot of people get stuck trying to figure things out, so they never start making moves to get towards a solution. And a lot of people need guidance when it comes to that. So I try to focus on the podcast with some solutions.
What's it called?
Well, I haven't come up with a
okay, so we'll do a listener poll.
Actual name. I'm doing a series right now called Consistency.
Okay.
And it's under on YouTube. I'm under Philly Sabbath.
All right, so it's on YouTube right now.
Yes.
And it says yet unnamed.
Yet unnamed. But it'll say Consistency Part 1, Part 2,
okay.
Part 3.
All right.
And more to come.
Cool. All right. Well, Malik, as always, fun talking to you, and thanks for joining me on the podcast.
I love it. Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.